So let me present one of the research that I've done.
Sa ating po mga announcement ay wala po yung ating mahal na pastor. Sila po ay nag-attend po ng conference. Actually, ito po ay Pastor's Wives Conference. So, sinamahan po ng ating mahal na pastor, si Michelle, para mag-attend po dito. Ito po yung ginagawa once a year. So, dahil po sa pandemic ay 2 taon po na hindi po nakapag-fellowship.
So, nakikita mo na ba yung presentation?
So, may ito ngayong opportunity.
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So, sige. So actually, this is one of the study that I've done sa otolith ng Sigenids. Yung isa about sa early life history, which I've already shown bits of pieces of that study. Yung sa otolith, yung growth rings, yung increment, ages. So yun. But this time, it's different. Also sa otolith, but it looked at the population connectivity insights. Okay? So, regional interspecific variability of sagittal otolith shape in Sigras sigenids, Siganus canaliculatus. Insights on population connectivity. So the structure of the otolith Ichthyology act as a auditory reception structure. And this structure have held a long-standing interest sa research from a wide range of discipline, from fisheries biology and up to neuroscience. So itong otolith, the sagitta, the biggest one, the sagittal otolith, is it display high specific inter and intra-specific variability when it comes to shape. Anong ibig kong sabihin ng inter and intra-specific variability? Comparing the size and shape of the otolith, there is a variation between or within the species, meaning different stock, different group, but belong to the same species, and from different species. Yun yung tinatawag natin na interspecific variability. Okay? Interspecific within the species. Okay? So kung titingnan nyo, itong picture na to, this shows the different otolith collected, okay, sample of otolith na that clearly show that there is a variability in shape. Kung titingnan nyo, itong isa sa Parampinaeus, sa goldfish, this one sa Litrinus, as what yung pinakita ni Doc Alin kanina. Ito naman sa sweet lips, yung Plectorencus. Ito yung sa Siganids, Siganus canaliculatus. And ito yung sa tilapia. Ito. Okay? So let me continue. So, various theoretical studies suggest na population connectivity, or ito yung tinatawag natin na exchange of individuals among geographically separated subpopulation that comprise a metapopulation. Pag sinabi natin metapopulation, a bigger population. Okay? The population connectivity play a fundamental role in local and metapopulation dynamics. When we say dynamics, changes, variation, metapopulation dynamics, community structure, genetic diversity, and of course, the resiliency of population sa human exploitation. So, paano itong connectivity rates influence the population and the community dynamics? The answer is an empirical determination ng larval dispersal will provide an estimate ng source ng larvae that eventually recruit to adult population. Okay. So why otolith? So bakit otolith ang ginamit? So the results indicate that otolith morphology present a useful and informative character for identification and discrimination of analyzed species. So, madaming study that confirms na ang otolith shape is ng isda occur under dual regulation. Dual regulation, genetic and environmental. So, the overall outline ng otolith can be reshaped by contrasting environmental condition. Intraspecific genetic variation can be due to long time separation which only affect otolith shape locally. Okay? So, development of otolith size and the general shape of the otolith is an ontogenetic process. Ibig sabihin, as the fish grow from different stage of its development, there is a change that happen and finer details of the otolith shape may be modulated by environmental factors. So, ibig sabihin, environmental factor play a crucial role in formation or development of the otolith. Particularly yung tinatawag natin na food availability. Okay? And lastly, the otolith play a physiologic response. Sa field ng neuroscience, ginagamit ang otolith to look at the laterality. Okay? And also yung auditory response, changes. Okay? Ano ba ang condition ng auditory response nila during the larval stage? As it settle, ano nang nangyayari? So the otolith can reflect those changes. Okay? Before and during settlement. Okay. So, the otolith character or feature extracted from Siganus canaliculatus is used to study if there is a connectivity between a separate or subpopulation. So currently, the otolith is recognized that its growth in shape occur under dual regulation, genetics and the environment. Okay? So overall, shape is regulated genetically, but there is a strong variability related to environmental factors. So otolith of the larvae and post-juvenile are still small and relative accretion rate is large. So possible environmental and biotic effects are therefore easier and faster to detect than in adults. So yun nga, sa juvenile, highly variable. Okay? They are subjected to different environmental condition And that environmental condition can be reflected dun sa kanilang otolith, in the otolith shape. So under the assumption that the shape development is genetic process, the size of the otolith and the complexity of its shape are hypothesized to increase with fish size and modulated by biotic and abiotic factor. So itong dalawang factor na to ay tiningnan sa study by looking at the morphology and size ng otolith. Okay? So, for the methodology, samples were obtained from San Miguel Island in the East Coast and in Piudoran, West Coast. There are studies suggesting that there is a mixing of water from the East Coast papunta dito sa West Coast, passing dito sa area to, sa St. Bernardino Strait, dito sa part ng Sorsogon. So there are mixing of water, okay, on a certain period of the year. So this study look at, is there a significant mixing of water that warrant the possible or the possibility that the population found in San Miguel Island ng Siganus canaliculatus is the same population found in Piudoran, and they belong to one meta population. So, the Siganus canaliculatus, ito dito sa area to. Okay? Yan yung, this one is Siganus virgatus. Okay? Gusto ko lang ipakita dito na there are siganids found in the area. Okay? This one, ito yung mga juvenile. Makikita nyo masyadong maliit siya. Okay? And napakadami. Okay? So, samples from San Miguel Island and in Piudoran, morphometrics of the fish were taken and compared using p-test and regression analysis. Then, otolith were extracted. Okay? The otolith extracted were subjected to morphometric and morphology analysis using the software ShapeR, which is part of the R software, and it's a freeware. Okay? The ShapeR is designed to study the shape variation ng otolith among fish population. Okay? So, ito. So, the otoliths were described using terminology proposed in the study to identify a specific area ng otolith kung saan ang variation nag-occur. So, ito yung part, yung rostrum, anterostrum, exura. Okay? The exura major. Ito. Then, dito, yung tinatawag natin na itong area na to, ito yung tinatawag natin na sulcus acousticus, kung saan dito naka-attach yung sensory hair ng isda attached to the nerves. Okay? Sulcus acousticus. Okay? So fish species with faster growth rate tend to form relatively longer otolith compared to slow growing, which is often associated with the rostrum region of the otolith. So, ibig sabihin, if the fish is fast growing, they tend to have an elongated otolith with longer rostrum compared to slow growing individual. Okay? So yan. So if you look at the size distribution of Tiganus canaliculatus from the two geographic region, from the east and west coast, numerically makikita nyo yung west coast, okay, yung standard length nila is relatively bigger, okay, larger or longer compared to the west coast. But statistically, they are not significantly different. So why I do this? Because I would like to eliminate the possibility of difference as a result of different sizes. Because, as I mentioned earlier, yung size nila extra. Okay, so let me continue. So yan. So to eliminate the possibility of the difference, kasi I would like to establish that the difference in the environmental condition would yield difference in the otolith shape. So since gusto kong establish na ang difference nila is a result of difference in environmental condition, not as a result of different sizes. Kasi sinasabi na ang shape ng otolith and size of the otolith is a function of size of the fish. So to ensure or to cancel out the possible influence of fish size to the morphology and morphometrics of the otolith, I ensure that there's no significant difference between the shape, between the size of fish sample from east and west coast. Okay? So yan. So no significant difference. Yung p-value niya, kung makikita nyo, it's not less than 0.05, which is not statistically significant. May stat na kamo, tapos na kamo ng stat, so I think alam nyo to. Okay? So yan. So then I look at I further analyze the relationship of the fish morphometrics between the region. This time, I include the otolith area as a covariate. So because various studies suggest na ang otolith area is highly correlated sa growth rate. So it shows that the growth rate as indicated by the regression slope is significantly higher ang sa East Coast compared sa West Coast. And I compare the slope of the line using analysis of covariance. And it shows that the slope is significantly different. Significantly higher yung slope ng sample from the East Coast. Okay? This goes to show that the sample from the East Coast is fast growing compared to the West Coast sample. Okay? So I also use wavelet transformation analysis dun sa otolith extracted image. Okay? Nandun siya sa ShapeR software. So in this analysis, the curve is obtained by decomposing the contour into several fragments and calculating the distance between the end of its fragment. So the otolith were positioned in this manner by looking at the Cartesian plane. So makikita nyo, ito 0 degrees to 90, 180, 270, 360. Okay? So the quality of the wavelet wavelet reconstruction technique was estimated by calculating the deviation of the otolith from the reconstructed outline. And yung number of wavelet levels na kailangan para ma-explain yung at least 90%. Okay? At least 90% of the variance. Sa case ng studying to, I was able to extracted 98.5% accuracy. So, yung difference in shape were visually evaluated by plotting the average shape obtained from the reconstructed outline from each group. So, kung makikita nyo, ito, yung black, sample from Theodoran, and yung red, sample from San Miguel. So, it is superimposed. Makikita nyo that the otolith from San Miguel Island is relatively larger. Okay? Mas malaki siya. Considering na walang significant difference na nakita dun sa size ng isda. Okay? So thus, the possibility of difference in size ng otolith as a result of difference in fish size was cancelled out. So it means na yung size difference na to sa San Miguel Island is a result of difference in growth rate. Okay? Difference in growth rate. Ibig sabihin, kahit the same size sila, fish size, pero yung sa San Miguel Island, mas malaki yung otolith niya compared sa otolith ng sample obtained from Theodoran. Okay? So, ito. So, to further investigate the partition ng variability, the proportion of variation among groups, yung tinatawag natin na inter-class correlation, ito ICC, itong line na to shows the variation. Okay? Saan ba na angle doon nagkaroon ng significant variation by looking at the interclass correlation. So kung makikita nyo, dito sa area, sa angle na to, dyan, dito, dito sa angle na to, dyan, dyan, and dyan. And actually, most of the variation between the investigated species group can be traced dito sa apat na to, na otolith area, as indicated by the interclass correlation. And the highest variation was observed at 280 degrees angle of the outline. Ito, pinakamalaking variation. Saan ang mga variation na to? Saan ang part ng otolith? So by looking at the otolith dito sa Cartesian plane, superimpose, so makikita nyo na ang may significant or may pinakang mataas na variation occurred in the ventral edge. So yung apat na yon na variation, significant higher variation, can be seen dito sa pararostrum area, dito, sa anterostrum, sa rostrum, and sa ventral edge. So kung maalala nyo, fast-growing fish tend to have an elongated or longer otolith. And most of that variation can be seen dito sa rostrum. And indeed, the result shows that the variation ng sample from San Miguel Island and sa Pioduran ay dito, sa area to. Okay? Ayan. Okay? So what are the summary of the finding and findings? Okay? Regional difference in the otolith morphology is evident. Variation is due to separation and it only affects the otolith shape locally, mainly in the rostrum and the anterostrum parts. The crenulate appearance in the East Coast sample is very evident, suggesting highly variable food provision. And of course, environmental condition greatly affects the otolith morphology as suggested by the wavelength analysis result. So for the conclusion, difference in the otolith morphology suggests that the fish or Siganus canaliculatus found in the East Coast and West Coast belong to a different stock or group. So, what's the catch? Ano ba yung implication? So, it implies that they have different life history. They have different life history character. Kung maalala nyo, in our previous discussion, we've discussed the biological reference point. So, the biological reference point indicate ano ba yung appropriate na exploitation level with its growth rate, yung K value. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yung ginawa mo na management approach sa East Coast can never be applied dun sa West Coast because it's a different stock. So kung hindi mo if you didn't determine the stock character, you might use the management approach for the East Coast and the West Coast, the same biological reference point, you are making a mistake. And that mistake could lead to collapse of the fishery. Okay? So, yun. So, that's the end of my discussion. Okay? Any question? May tanong? Wala? Walang tanong? Naintindihan? Or walang naintindihan? So, malalaman ko yan. You had to submit an essay, 1,500 words, about the topic that we discuss, starting dun sa soy protein concentration study in sa feeding hanggang dito sa presentation ko. Okay? I've already created assignment dun sa Google Classroom. And before 7 o'clock, ma-access nyo na siya. And ang deadline niya ay bukas 5 p.m. So, that will be part of your laboratory. Okay? May tanong? May tanong? Any question? Clarification sa instruction ko? Wala? Okay, so no question. Sabi ni Cyrus. Okay. So kung wala, last na requirement ko, bukas, sasubmit nyo. Okay? So, again, nice meeting you. Siguro, pwede naman sigurong i-turn on yung camera for the last time. Before we end. Okay, kung masabatan ko kamo sa SM, at least mahihiling ko man lamang ang pandog nindo. Okay. Yan, may madiklo ko na. Okay. Ayan, screenshot ko man lang. Okay. So, yun. Okay. Sige. Thank you.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay. Sige. So, may chat dito na kung pwede daw pong pa-extend pa. Essay na lang yan. Kailangan kong gumawa ng grades nyo and kailangan makasubmit agad ako. So, wala nang extension. Okay? Until 5 p.m.
Kahit po, sir, hanggang 12 midnight.
12 midnight. O, sige. Grabe hirit. Namagibo pa man daw kamukha hanggang 12. Garuday naman.
Sir, yung... Baka, sir, yung sa word count po, sir, pwede nasa 1,000, sir, ulit. Kasi, I mean, medyo nahirapan din po kami, sir, mag-intindi kasi. Medyo, nahirapan po kami, sir, mag-intindi nung ano nila.
Discuss. Okay.
Opo, sir.
Sige, 1,000.
Elaborate po kami, sir, doon sa study.
Sige, 1,000 words. Wala nang hirit. Dahil na maghirit, yun na yan.
Thank you po, sir.
Okay, sige. Sige na, you may now leave the meeting. Thank you very much for the fruitful, I hope, fruitful semester. And literally graduating na kamo. Graduating. Naghihintay na lang ng sablay. Ay, ng alampay. Alampay pala. Ako man sa sablay. Okay, so sige. Let me now leave the meeting.
Bye po, sir. Thank you very much po.
Okay.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir. Thank you po, sir.